I won't take much more than about 2 hours. First, I want to get the thank yous out of the way. First off, thank you to Kennametal. Sherry McCleary has been active with us in this project for a long time, and really appreciate the support that Kennametal and Sherry has provided to this effort. It's really, really appreciated. Also, I wanted to mention thank you to our panelists, which we just did again. But finally, well, not finally, also want to mention that we have had some project sponsors who've been working with us every Friday for a long time to try and not pull off this conference necessarily, this luncheon, but to figure out how do we take a town like New Kensington and an area like New Kensington and a region like Alakiski Valley and turn it into a digital belt. And I'd just like those folks to stand up. They're on the back of the program, so if you're from ABC Create, Arconic, CMU Create Lab, the Corner Economic Growth Connection of Westmoreland, Kennametal, Siemens, and Westmoreland County Industrial Development Corporation. Please give these folks a hand. A little late, but okay. All right. All right, and then finally, and most importantly, thank you to the Penn State New Kensington staff, and I want to point out some people in particular, Corinne Colson, Carrie Milan, Pat Hollinger, Candy Christie. On top of the jobs that they have trying to keep this campus afloat, they have put a lot of time into making sure that you're fed and that there's actually a program and that you didn't just show up and it was me and a guitar trying to figure out how to entertain you for an hour and a half. So if you could give those folks a hand, I'd really appreciate it. As I mentioned, we meet every Friday, and we've been doing that for a while, and the reason is because we believe. We believe that there is a future for this area, and we believe that there is a future for our students, there is a future for our companies, and there is a future for our institutions. And we believe that future is Industry 4.0. And we really think that as we've been meeting, the connection between business and industry and education has never been more needed, more appropriate, or more on the verge of producing a workforce that is beyond any other workforce in the region or in the country. And I say that because I really think that this lunch was the result of that planning. What we tried to do was make sure that educators had a chance to hear from business and industry the struggles that they're facing in the near future. These things that Illa was talking about, these things that the companies are talking about, they're not here next year. They're not here 10 years from now. Some of them will be. They're not here 5 years from now. They're here now. They're dealing with these issues now. They need a workforce that is a different workforce, and some of them don't even know that yet. So the fact that we're working together is extremely important, and we wanted you to understand that because we need you to be believers. And the reason why we need you to be believers is we have to change. It bothers me every day that I'm going to get up on the stage this Saturday and I'm going to graduate students who've not heard about Industry 4.0, who don't realize that the second they graduate, the clock is ticking on their retirement. And it's up to them. There is no company that's going to come in and employ them for 35, 40 years. They're going to have to think about that. They're going to have to negotiate that. They're going to have to enter a world where there are 4 to 11 different careers. Not jobs, careers. I bumped into an interesting young lady a couple of weeks ago. My wife and I were having lunch, and she had a PhD in English. And we thought, wow, that was pretty neat. She said, yeah, you know what, I had to pivot. She used that word. We use that a lot in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, which I pretend to be a part of now. And we said, you had to pivot. She said, yeah, there were no jobs. What are you now? I'm a data analyst. I do data analytics. What do you plan to do? Well, I might go into software programming. I mean, those are 3 different things, and she's all of, well, she looked like she was about 14 years old, but she was probably all of maybe 35. So the world is changing, and I think we need to get together and change that. And there's some great news on that front. The first is that we have advantages in this area that, as I've been out talking to people about 4.0, and if you bump into me, you will hear the word 4.0 50 times. So I talk about it a lot to different types of people, and when I do that, and now we're getting contacted by others who are also thinking about this. And what I found is that we have advantages in this area that very few other regions have. There's a group called the Seven, and they're up in Milwaukee. And basically it's 7 counties trying to figure out how to prepare a digital, a workforce for the digital age. And when he heard that we had a school system, a set of school systems, when he heard that we had business and companies involved, when he heard that we had a corner with entrepreneurial training, when he heard of all the things that we had, the resources of Pittsburgh at our disposal, he said, you know what, nobody has that. So I want to talk just a second about what some of those opportunities are, because what's in front of us is the opportunity to become the digital belt of this region. I really believe that we have an opportunity to become a digital belt for the country in ways that benefit small neighborhoods, small communities like the ones that we live in. Just a couple things. Part of our resources here at Penn State is our own faculty. Dr. A, who asked the question, is really thinking hard about how do you integrate business courses and business programs and business students into being able to manage in a digital 4.0 world. All right? Dr. Shu is here. She's an entrepreneurial expert, so that's her kind of field. Dr. Tan is a person who is researching the juxtaposition, the interrelationship, the connection of humans with the robotics, and what does it mean. So when you talk about how do we learn from robots and how do robots learn from us and what are the impacts of that, that's something that he does research on. Dr. Chufi, who is on the panel, is developing what we hope will be the state-of-the-art Factory 4.0 simulator being developed on this campus, tested on our students, tested in for our regional companies. We're hoping to take that simulator and adjust it to the tool and die industry, adjust it for education, so that students and people in smaller companies have a chance to see how Industry 4.0 can affect them. It's not just our faculty, but it's all of Penn State faculty. Because we have a corridor of innovation up at Penn State, or here in New Kensington, we've been able to attract researchers down to look at things like roofs, social issues involved in mindset is something we're working on. We have a stackable computer now, which is a simulated supercomputer, so we can develop large data sets so students can get some of the experience dealing with the data analytics that people have mentioned. But even beyond that, we have Pittsburgh. I mean, the fact that we have Create Lab that is right down the road from us, really, it takes about 40 minutes to get there. Involve with us to help school districts figure out how to enhance creativity and innovation through the use of technology is incredible. And the entrepreneurial ecosystem that is out there in this area, many of you are in the room, that provide expertise and knowledge and guidance and consulting services for companies that are trying to get into 4.0. We have that resource in a way that very few others do. We also have Pitt. I hate to say that word. Waiting for the lightning bolt to strike me, but I guess I got away with it. Pitt, Carnegie Mellon. We have Arconic, Siemens, and Kennametal, which have taken the initiative to get involved with us and meet with us every week to figure out how can we start to work on getting better connected to the educational system and to providing opportunities for everybody. So I want to just leave you with an understanding that this is not something that's just talk. It's not panelists sitting up here talking. It's not a luncheon that's going to be over and done. There are real, tangible things that have happened and are happening to position this area for a future that I think will benefit all of us. The first is, if you don't know, we do have a corner building called we call it the Corner. It's an entrepreneurial center and a co-working space. It's a place where we will, in the spring and then full-fledged out in the fall next year, be offering 4.0 programming for students, for companies, for individuals, for entrepreneurs. We run entrepreneurial programming out of there. Rhonda Schultz is somewhere where she's raise your hand. Oh, there she is, who handles the entrepreneurial programming for us. So if you have an idea, we have an incredible amount of resources to take that idea and turn it into a business. We're using that entrepreneurial center to provide experiences for students so that they develop the entrepreneurial mindset that is so critical to some of the things that have been talked about by business and industry here. We plan on producing intrapreneurs out of that programming. We're building a state-of-the-art factory simulator, as I've mentioned. I keep talking about that. I hope it becomes a reality, you know. Yeah. And then it's coming, guys. It's coming, believe me. We also have just worked with Siemens to talk about how we can get our students familiar with software to develop digital twins. The software packages that are coming in to develop basically virtual twins of product so that you can send those to someone like Arconic and have them look at it virtually before you're able to produce it for them physically. We think that's going to be huge. We also have a plan to adapt we have a plan to adapt to the future workforce. So now on your sheets here, if you have this sheet, if any of you have seen this, you'll see on the front side with the boxes that our effort to do an entrepreneurial center turned from just providing an entrepreneurial center that was going to produce entrepreneurs to really going out and tackling the Rust Belt to Digital Belt on 4 different levels. So the first is the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and I'm going to talk about something else with that in a minute. The second is workforce development, which we think the Factory 4 simulator can help with. But do you know there are people in New Kensington that have trouble filling out an online application? And it's not only New Kensington, it's Vandergrift, it's Apollo, it's Pittsburgh, it's all over. If those people aren't participating in the economy now, how are we going to take care of them when we go to a digital economy? And that's what we want to try and change. And we think we can through working with companies like Siemens and Arconic and others. We can find ways to use technology to train that workforce. The future workforce, you may not know this, but if you are in business right here, you are being joined today by 40 to 50 educators who've been working for 4 years on a Grable grant to use technology to enhance creativity and innovation in the classrooms. They've already been working on producing the type of individuals that you want to be in your workforce. And they're doing it in amazing and creative ways. And what we really want you to do if you're a business today is think about how to get involved with them so they can continue to make new and, I think, traumatic steps in providing the workforce that you need. We also have something on the infrastructure where we're trying to work on building in New Kensington a city that looks better, a city that is connected, a city that offers things like a digital lab. And I'm going to go into that right now. Because in the future, what we hope to do as an immediate step, the next thing for us is to build a digital lab, which is a makerspace. A makerspace is where you go and you create, well, you flesh out a project or a concept or a product. And most makerspaces are physical, right? They have machines that lathe machines and printers and things like that. We're thinking it's going to take us 2 to 3 years to build one anyway. Why don't we build a digital lab for a makerspace for the future and not for the past? And what we will be able to do if we can build this thing is be able to provide your students, small companies, current workforce, future workforce, the ability to try things out in the workspace of tomorrow. It will provide our students an opportunity to get software skills to develop those digital twins that are needed for a big company. It will provide small businesses a place to come where they can't do it on their own. So if you are a tool and die company of maybe 5 or 6 people, you don't know what you need for Industry 4.0. You know that technology is coming. You also don't have the ability to invest in the tools that are going to be needed. We want to provide those tools to you. And we want to make sure that you can succeed. We've got a long way to go between here and when that's built, but that's the direction for us. And we've got some big players helping us, and we're really, really appreciative of that. So, we also have adjusted programming I've talked about. We have ABC Create, which I just mentioned. What we're hoping to do with that group is have them examine what they're doing so that we can see what's missing in the Industry 4.0, and we can work on it starting in kindergarten. So K through 12, we're starting to work on how are we providing these students an introduction into the types of technologies that are out there. How do we teach them to continually pivot and learn so that they can use technology as a tool and outpace robotics and artificial intelligence over the course of their lives? And then when they graduate, how can we make every single one of them come to Penn State New Kensington? Aha, there's the ultimate goal, right? How can we make them come to college and engage in the same type of learning so that when they graduate, they have the skills that make them, set them apart from any other workforce? There are very few places in the country that have this amount of resources, this ability to do this, and we want to really take that forward. So most of all, what's next is to try and get you involved. And there are a couple things. The first is, this is really simple. Nothing's free, right? You have, and it's green so that you can find it, you have a survey. This is very, very important to us because what we are doing right now is we're getting ready to develop the organization, the tools, and the resources to meet your needs. And what we need you to do is fill this out so that we know what your needs are. Okay, so that's the first thing that you need to do. That's an easy way to get involved. In the back, on the bottom, you'll see that there are different things that we're planning. We're planning to do programming. We want to know if you're interested in that. We're hoping to do a resource fair to show you the technologies that are out there if you're in business or if you're in education. We hope that you'll receive information about a membership. This thing is so messy and so big, we can't possibly provide services to everything and meet everyone's needs. But what we can do is develop a place where you can come and get the answers to your questions. So we want to be a clearinghouse for you, and we want to keep you up to date on what's happening in technology. And we want to keep you up to date with what's happening in business, and we want to keep you up to date with what's happening in education. But in order to do that, we need to know what your needs are. And then we're going to take those back, and if you are interested and you connect with us, we would love to have you join us, and we will know what that looks like after we've been through these surveys. But we are going to continue this. We're going to continue working with you. We're going to continue to bring you together, and we're going to continue to develop the best workforce, I was going to say in the history of the planet, but that might be a bit much. But we're going to develop a workforce that will let every one of our students succeed and provide every one of our businesses in the area with an opportunity to succeed as well in an age that's new and different, but also exciting. So thank you very much for coming today. Thank you for taking the time. Appreciate that, and I look forward to working with you in the future.